Today, let's dive into the massive strategic pivot happening inside one of Japan's oldest and largest companies, Mitsui Co. We're going to look at how this giant is, quite literally, selling off its past to buy a completely different kind of future.
This is really the central question here. How does a company that's been around for a century and a half get ready for the next century? We're not talking about minor adjustments. This is a complete overhaul, a reaction to these huge fundamental shifts happening around the world in energy, in health, and in how we eat. So really, how do you turn a ship that massive?
And the answer, it turns out, is incredibly bold. Mitsui is making a conscious, deliberate choice to sell off the very assets that once defined it, all to bankroll a future that looks, well, almost unrecognizable. So let's start with what they decided to let go of.
To build something new, you've got to clear out the old stuff first, right? For Mitsui, this meant a massive, and I mean massive, clear out of its legacy carbon-heavy businesses. This wasn't just trimming the edges, it was more like a strategic amputation of what used to be the very heart of the company.
And when you put it side by side like this, wow, the contrast is just night and day, isn't it? On one side, you have the old bedrock of the company, coal, oil, gas, and on the other, the future they're building, wellness, sustainable food, and renewable energy. It's a total shift in identity, really, from a company that extracts resources to one that focuses on nurturing life. We're going to dig deep into the wellness and food plays, but just keep that third pillar, renewables, in the back of your mind.
If you need one thing to understand just how serious this shift is, look at this number. $1. That's it. In 2021, that was the symbolic price Mitsui accepted for its entire stake in a huge coal mine and infrastructure project in Mozambique. Think about that. You sell an asset that was once worth billions for a single dollar. That sends a message that is impossible to ignore. We are done with this business, period.
And that Mozambique sale, that was just the opening shot. It kicked off this huge wave of divestments all over the world. We're talking coking coal in Australia, a big coal power plant in Indonesia, even an offshore oil field in the Gulf of Mexico. It was a systematic, global retreat from carbon.
Okay, so you sell off all those assets. Where does all that money go? Well, the first major destination is the global health and wellness sector. Mitsui decided to build an entirely new business pillar, one that's centered on human, and yes, even animal well-being.
And the absolute cornerstone of this new wellness strategy is their joint acquisition of Sung in 2024. Now, this isn't just some startup. This is a 145-year-old institution in Asia renowned for its traditional Chinese medicine. It is a household name, with over 170 stores and 30 clinics across places like Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia.
And they put some serious money on the table for it. The whole deal, which they did with Roto Pharmaceuticals, was valued at about 800 million Singapore dollars. That's around 88 billion Japanese yen. Mitsui took a 30% stake, which is a major, major commitment, basically saying, we are all in on natural health.
But here's the really clever part. These acquisitions are not just random buys. They're all pieces of a much bigger puzzle that Mitsui calls a wellness ecosystem. They're taking a trusted traditional brand, they're moving into animal health, they're even getting into corporate mental health services. It's about building this holistic portfolio that addresses well-being from all angles, especially as populations age and people focus more on their health.
All right, so that's pillar number one, wellness. The next pillar they're building is just as ambitious. It's all about securing the future of our global food supply. And they're placing a huge bet on sustainable protein, which, as you can imagine, is a massive need for a growing planet.
So in 2023, Mitsui made its big move. They invested in a company called Industrial Pesquera Santa Priscilla, or IPSP for short. This company, based in Ecuador, is the single largest shrimp farming operation in the entire world. Shrimp is a super efficient protein, and by buying into IPSP, Mitsui instantly jumped to the very top of that global supply chain.
And of course, the investment was huge. We're talking about $360 million US. That's roughly 50 billion Japanese yen to make ISPP a group company. So this wasn't just a small bet, right? This was them planting a flag and declaring their intention to be a dominant player in sustainable aquaculture worldwide.
And it's not just about shrimp in Ecuador. Not at all. Their protein strategy is global. They're specifically targeting these high-growth emerging markets, investing in the poultry industry in places like India, Egypt, and Morocco. Why? Because that's where the middle class is growing and demanding more and more high-quality protein.
Let's just take India as an example. In 2024, Mitsui poured up to 40 billion yen into one of the country's leading poultry companies, Sneha Farms. And the goal they set was incredibly ambitious: help them double their production in only 5 years. That just shows you how much they believe in that market's potential.
Now, what makes these food investments so smart is the model they're using. With companies like Sneha Farms in India or Wadi Poultry in Egypt, they're not just buying a piece of the puzzle. They're investing in businesses that are vertically integrated. That means they control the whole shebang, from making the animal feed to the farming itself to processing the meat and finally getting it to the stores. It gives them incredible control over efficiency and quality.
So, when you step back and put all these pieces together, selling off the old carbon-based assets and then pouring all that capital into new sectors like wellness and food, you can really start to see the blueprint for the new Mitsui taking shape. And this timeline just shows you how quickly it all happened. It really kicked off with that symbolic $1 coal sale in 2021. The very next year, they made that huge move into their third pillar, green energy, with a €575 million investment. Then came 2023 with the massive shrimp deal and 2024 with the landmark healthcare acquisition. You can see the momentum building year after year.
So, what's the end result of this multi-year, multi-billion-dollar strategy? It's a pivot, a fundamental pivot. Mitsui is transforming itself from that classic 20th century trading house that was built on things like fossil fuels into a 21st century company that is all about life, health, food, and sustainability.
And that really leaves us with one big, fascinating question, doesn't it? By making these incredibly bold and decisive moves, selling its past to fund its future, has Mitsui actually created the playbook for how other giant legacy corporations can do more than just survive, but actually thrive in the 21st century?